Remember when you were a little kid? What did your world revolve around? Your mom, your dad, your parents? Somebody, right? I want to take you back in time to 1929. It was a very different time, a very hard time, the beginning of the Great Depression. Have you seen this picture before, I take it? It's a very famous picture associated with the Great Depression. This is Florence Owens Thompson, a mother of 7, 32 years old, pea picker from California. This is another classic symbol of the Depression, children waiting in food lines. Now let me tell you about a little boy, 9 years old, being raised by a single mother, no father. A single mother who loved her son more than life itself, but a mother who could no longer provide the basics, food and housing. A desperate and panicked mother who loved her child so much she did the unthinkable, the unimaginable. She placed him in an orphanage. That small child was my father. As a former child, I can't even imagine what it was like for a small boy to be taken away from the only world he knew. And here I am as a mother of 2. I don't even know how my grandmother physically survived that pain of being separated from her son. My father lived in that orphanage until he was 15, and that was the cutoff age. Although he never spoke of the pain of being separated from his mother, and I didn't have the courage to ask, he did speak fondly about the nuns in the orphanage. I think he had a crush on one of them. At 88 years old, he still remembered their names. That says a lot. My father joined the military at 17 and went to war. He married my mother on his return and had 5 children. My parents were married for 53 years until her death. He was the very best husband, father, and role model a man could be. This is a slide of St. Joseph's Orphanage, and that's where my father lived. Looks a little scary, doesn't it? Here's my point. I don't know what happened in that orphanage, but what I do know is this. It had a positive, long-lasting effect. It developed and shaped a man with principles, morals, and stability. I would like to be optimistic and think every story had a happy ending, but that's not the case. Between 1854 and 1929, an estimated 200,000 orphaned and abandoned children were placed in someone's care. Of the estimated 200,000, some were actually placed in orphanages and some were adopted. But don't be misled by the word adopted. Paperwork was non-existent, there were no social workers to follow up, very few rules and guidelines. Many children were adopted for the sole purpose of helping on farms, or in the very worst case scenario, young girls used for prostitution. Now, let's fast forward to 2013. Not the Great Depression by any means, but certainly the United States is in economic turmoil. Who and what does this affect? Families, for one. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, today there are at least 123,000 orphans in America that are now in foster care. These children are often the victims of abuse and neglect. The 123,000, though, only represents orphans in the United States that are in foster care. In the last few decades, federal regulations have been shifting the homeless children from orphanages to foster care, preferring the family environment over group homes. Today, there are over 400,000 children in foster care. This is according to the Health and Human Services Adoption and Foster Care Analysis and Reporting System. The average age of a child in foster care is 10, though half are younger. 40% are white, 34% are black, and 18% Hispanic. Nearly 40% of these children will wait over 3 years in foster care before being adopted. Roughly 55% of these children have been placed in 3 different homes. One study found that 33% of children had changed elementary schools 5 times or more, losing their relationships and falling behind in their education. In conclusion, although foster care system today, like any other institution, has flaws, they also have benefits. And because orphanages are now being replaced with foster care, I really couldn't find any recent photos of an orphanage. I did find this photo, though, and I thought it was very cool. This is in South Africa, and I get a good feeling when I look at that orphanage, much better than the one that my father was in. There are now measures in place that safeguard, protect, and provide loving, stable homes to hundreds of thousands of children. There are thousands of success stories. My father was one of them. He not only survived, but he thrived, and he provided his own family with a foundation of love and stability. For him, the system worked. And there we go. Thank you.